Alright folks, so today I'm here to bring you my thoughts on The Ones Who Live Episode 5. Now, real quick, before we get started, I've been noticing I'm starting to get a lot of spam comments from bots in my comments replying to people. I just want to be clear, this is not me. This is a pretty common issue on YouTube where bot accounts will impersonate the creator in hopes somebody will fall for it and end up clicking their links or anything. I will never, ever comment this way or ask you guys to do anything like this, and the best way to tell is in the username. For example, here you can see there's a period at the end. My user is swell-films. Any variation of that is 100% a bot. So if you see one of these accounts, just hit that report button and don't engage with them. So with that out of the way, I get it, start talking about the review. So the first scene of this episode is the first time in a very long time I've been genuinely shocked from The Walking Dead. I was pretty surprised that Rick and Michonne reunited in the first episode, but we knew they were going to reunite at some point in the series. But in the first scene of episode 5, we see a mysterious hooded figure, and I said in my last review a lot of people were thinking it was Morgan. I was definitely starting to subscribe to that theory, but after watching the trailer, I was thinking more, it was probably Jadis. And then out of nowhere, the person takes their hood down and reveals it's Father Gabriel. I was just as shocked seeing him in this show as I was seeing a main character death. I don't know if anybody predicted Gabriel will be in the show at all. I know I did not. I did not see that coming, not in a million years. So I was actually a really big fan of that. I loved seeing him again. Gabriel to me is one of the few characters in the series finale that got a proper end to their character arc, with him letting the people of the Commonwealth into the estates away from the Horde for safety. So having Gabriel around as just like a side supporting character without necessarily giving him his own spin-off, I think works perfectly. And I wish they would do that with the other characters as well, like, you know, Aaron. You make it make sense, of course, but you know what I'm saying. So throughout the episode, we see flashbacks of Gabriel meeting with Jadis throughout times in the series that we know, like between, I think, season 9 and 10, and then again between 10 and 11 after the Whisper War, and then again immediately after the series finale. I find this really interesting because we all had the question, like, why didn't he bring this up to anyone? Well, it turns out they were looking for her. Like, he did tell Rosita about it, and they were searching the radios for her. I really wish we saw this in the main show, but I guess it is what it is. But I can't help but find it kind of funny that Gabriel was like sneaking off in the woods with Jadis when he was with Rosita, was he not? I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny. I'm not ashamed to admit, they kind of had my ass. I thought Gabriel was gonna die in this episode for a short minute, and I was pretty disappointed. I was like, you're gonna bring him back just to kill him? But obviously they didn't do that, which, like, I'm very thankful for. I find it really interesting that we see through these flashbacks that Jadis actually did seem to really care for Gabriel. And to me, it showed that she actually did have stakes in this as well. It lent a little bit less credence to her saying she was going to kill everyone back home, because I didn't think she would actually care about anyone. But as the scene's going on, I'm like, is she going to kill the Alexandrians? You know, she seems to have a stake in this race. She has people she cares about there. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I thought her visits of her every year coming back, she was probably constantly fighting with herself if she was going to kill Gabriel, you know, cut off the loose end. Just like how they do with everyone else. Which obviously by the end, we see she just couldn't do it. And just as Rick says in the episode, we see that Anne is still in there. Now moving on to Rick and Michonne, I thought their characterizations this episode were absolutely perfect. It really felt like the good old days with them. The beginning bit with them camping and stuff, it just kind of reminded me of, I think it's season 7, episode 12. The episode where they're out at that carnival or whatever, and they're just spending time together. It really reminded me of that. And although the bandit group they came across, I thought they were a little on the silly side, but I thought it worked really well to show Rick and Michonne's teamwork together. Those two are not worried for a second that these bandits are going to kill them. And they don't even need to say anything to each other. They just at the exact same time disarm them and take them down. Like, it's, that's what I was looking for in their relationship, and we are absolutely getting it. I think the cinematography is still absolutely outstanding in every episode. I just love seeing mountains in The Walking Dead. I will say the Last of Us inspired acoustic guitar, it just makes me think of Last of Us whenever I'm watching it, not really The Ones Who Live. I'm not sure if that's a negative or not, but it's just something I keep noticing. And also this episode, we get to see a new type of environmental walker. I can't quite remember what they called it, the boiled or something, but it's the stone skin walkers. And this I love. I want to see this kind of thing all the time. It makes sense for a walker to change with its environment, especially 15 years into the apocalypse. So AMC, more of this please. So when Rick and Michonne are on the road, Jadis tracks them down pretty quickly, and we get a scene of them jumping out of bed and drawing their guns on her. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it really makes me think of that season 6 episode where Jesus sneaks into their room. Jadis tracking them down makes sense. I mean, she's high up in the CRM, they have helicopters, they're driving a big yellow truck and leaving a trail of crumbs behind them. So those three have a scuffle because Jadis wants to execute them, you know, they're traitors, they ran away, blah blah blah. But I have to admit, something I did not like was the whole double cross scene. Right away, just by the way Michonne and Rick are talking, you can tell it's bullshit. They're talking loudly and really pronounced, and you know, they see the CRM now, and Jadis just kind of buys it. She has him just throw the guns, and she's like, alright Michonne, go to this outpost miles away. We're gonna be here at gunpoint. Of course Michonne's gonna come with a gun or whatever on the other side. I don't know, for being so high up in a military, you would think she'd be a little smarter than that. But regardless, Jadis is injured, and the rest of the episode is kind of a cat and mouse thing of them trying to find her. And what I did like was the moral dilemma Jadis presents on killing her. As we found out in episode 3, I believe, she has files on Alexandria. In the event of her death, will get leaked to the CRM to go and basically, like, wipe them out. So Jadis presents the situation as either you two, Rick and Michonne, are gonna die today, and all your family and friends back at Alexandria are gonna be just fine, or she is gonna die today and Rick and Michonne are gonna get away, but their whole families will be wiped out. That kind of dilemma I do really like. But another thing I didn't like is twice in this episode, they have characters hold guns to people as if they're gonna shoot them, and then fake us out by shooting the walkers behind them. That seems like something we would see in the weaker seasons of the original show, not something we would see in The Ones Who Live. It's a small thing, but it did stick out to me and reminded me of like something we'd see in like the 7th season. So, big reveal, Jadis dies in this episode. Now this I'm a little conflicted about. On one hand, she was really annoying, and she really was the only thing left keeping Rick tied to the CRM. But on the other hand, I always just kind of expected a little more from her. Everything about her was so mysterious. I always figured she had some sort of pre-apocalypse ties to something, but I guess it really is just what we saw. The CRM found the trash people, were doing trades with them, she traded Rick to get up there and just kept moving up, which is not a bad story at all. Like, don't get me wrong, maybe that's my own expectations getting in the way. Especially this series, she was just really starting to get interesting, and the mysterious nature of her being across like 3 different shows, I just thought she'd have more reveals associated with her character, but it is what it is. Jadis is gone, she's bit on the neck, and in her final minutes, surprisingly, she kind of switches up. And I think that's the point of having the Gabriel flashbacks, to kind of tie the humanity back to her, as we know she's had a type of identity crisis ever since we met her back in season 7. And her last act is revealing where the files on Alexandria is, so Rick and Michonne can save their families. But she asks them to promise to leave the CRM alone, but Michonne switches up pretty hard. She's like, we're taking it down. I thought the point in the last episode was Michonne making Rick realize this wasn't his fight. So I was pretty surprised that they both switched up on their position on it. Jadis reveals that Rick was about to get the Echelon briefing, which apparently is like the big old news package of everything you could ever want to know about the CRM, which is definitely like intriguing, like that's what we want to see, absolutely. But I thought we came to the conclusion that it doesn't matter, this isn't our fight, we got our own family back at home. I think I might have to rewatch that part because it left me a little bit confused. I might have missed something. Like, did Jadis' words get through to Michonne? Does she, like, see them as a threat that won't leave them alone ever now? I'm just a bit confused about how we got to that conclusion, but this episode did very well set up the finale. They need to get the files for Alexandria. That I 100% get. Absolutely, you guys need to go back to get those. Like, that's important. But after that, Rick's gonna go back and get the briefing and, you know, make up a story about what happened out there. So I still don't really know where this is going. I noticed the promo for next episode says finale, it doesn't say season finale, so that leads me to believe this is the end of this particular story. But there's no chance Rick or Michonne are dying, not a chance. This is going to be continued in some other spin-off, or if they're just being secret about it, a season 2 of The Ones Who Live. We know Gabriel's in the area, we saw him at the beginning of this episode, see the helicopter, so that leads me to believe he's going to be in the finale. I'm really excited for that. What makes me so sure none of them are dying is because of the proposal, which I gotta say was fucking beautiful. Perfect. Both of their words to each other are just so sincere. The only thing I wish is that we saw that scene back in season 9 before Rick disappeared where Rick wanted the engagement ring and Gabriel found it for him. I think that would have done wonders for Hope going forward over the next 6 years until the show came out, as we weren't really sure what was happening. Was he for sure coming back? We didn't know. They said they were making movies, but then years went by, so a lot of things are up in the air. But unless AMC is gearing up to kick us in the throat, basically, there's no chance either of them are dying this season. But overall, this episode closed a lot of plot lines and pointed us in the right direction of where we're going in the finale. I give this episode an 8 out of 10. Some of the Jada stuff is a little weird. There's some cases that make me feel like I'm watching one of the weaker seasons of the main show, but they are pretty small things that don't take away overall from the experience, in my opinion. I thought it was a solid penultimate episode for this season, and I can't wait to see what they got in store for us next week. So let me know down below what you thought about the episode, and if you like this video, hit that like button, and if you're feeling generous, hit that sub button as well. I'll see you next week, folks.